What's poppin', y'all? I'm Sha Ill, and we back at it with more Surviving El Chapo, Flores Twins content. Today we getting back to the Connect podcast with Johnny Mitchell, interviewing Charlie Webster. This is my part 3. Let's get it.
Tell us how they met.
So Pete got kidnapped.
Jesus
again.
Christ, this guy.
I know. I mean, you know, in all seriousness, it really changed him. And when he walked me through what happened, you could see, again, whatever you think, people are human and have emotions and aren't robots. And so it did have a severe impact on him mentally. And I mean, you know, PTSD from that must be horrific.
Why did they kidnap him, though?
Why does anybody kidnap somebody worth some money? Why does anybody kidnap somebody in the game? Because it got something to do with the game.
Why did they kidnap him, though?
Okay, you ready for this?
Yeah.
So this is how they met Chapo. So I'm going to rewind. I've just kind of done the spoiler first.
Mm-hmm.
So Pete got kidnapped. He went to see a guy called Lupe, who was like his uncle, Theo, and but not blood related. And they'd done loads of business together. And all of a sudden, Pete wasn't there. So Pete went on his own, and they're like, "Where's Pete?" So they're all kind of phoning around, going, "Oh, where's Pete gone?" And then it turns out they find out that Pete's got kidnapped again. In a short space of time after the last one as well. And then Jay finds out, like, who's got him, right? And they're like, Chapo's got him.
And did they know who Chapo was? Was Chapo famous?
I mean, do you know who Chapo was?
But in 2000 or 98, whenever this was, I don't know that the world really knew. He didn't have the worldwide infamy yet.
They knew who Chapo was.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So why did they target them?
But this was like, I suppose it was like 90s, early 2000s. So no, they did know Chapo. So so it was like Chapo has got him.
Right.
So then Jay had to try and figure out a way through lots of different people and the lieutenants to be able to go and meet Chapo. He's like, I want to go meet Chapo. So he flies to Sinaloa. The first time he's gone to Sinaloa, going back to your question, they weren't based in Sinaloa.
Right.
And he meets Chapo for the first time, and it's just, the description is amazing. You have to listen to it because this is in the first season.
What you mean he got to listen to it? You mean you're not going to give it to him word for word, piece by piece, the way he wants it, because he didn't do no research?
Of Surviving El Chapo, because he's kind of just like, oh man, he's just like my dad.
Yeah.
You know, that's what Jay was like. He's just like, you know, and there was this whole obviously perception about him.
Mystique.
Yeah, about him. And he's like, he's just come in with a trucker's cap on and he's like, you know, how can I help you?
Yeah.
You know, it's brilliant because I end one of the episodes there.
Yeah.
So it turns out Chapo's got him, and Chapo's like, you owe me money. And Jay's like, I don't owe you money. He's like, yeah, you owe me 10 million. And he's like, no, I don't owe you. And he goes, Lupe says you owe me 10 million.
Wow.
So
Lupe owed him 10 million.
Yeah, and blamed the twins. In a nutshell, it's a
twins.
bit more complicated than that, but yes.
Wow.
So, and Jay's like, okay, and this is so fascinating because this then links to how they ended up getting Chapo years later when they cooperated, because they didn't cooperate with the feds' approval in a way, because the feds were like, well, we don't deal with fugitives. So they had to get Chapo on tape to be able to cooperate. So then I'm going to rewind you back to this moment where Jay's with Chapo, and Chapo goes, prove it to me then. Go and get a recorder and record Lupe. Right?
Wow.
So that gave them the idea years later to then record
to start
Chapo
recording
with exactly the same type of equipment.
Right.
And turned it back on him.
Think,
they're very clever.
Do you think they held that against Chapo even after, you know, Pete was freed? They never held the kidnapping against him.
No.
Okay, gotcha.
No, because it was Lupe. Right. So I think Jay said he was really disappointed because he was like, well, let me tell you what happened. So they went to speak to Lupe, and this kind of like ruckus, kind of came out, and Jay's got the recording, and he's like, like, because they patted him down. He's like, oh my God, if they find the recording, but they didn't find the recording because they would have probably, I don't know what they'd have done, but I presume it would have been trouble. They're not the same situation because they were leaving Pete to die, basically. So at this point, Pete's in a really bad state.
They were definitely leaving Pete to die. That time, they didn't give a shit if he ate, if he drank, if he survived, if he didn't. And if you ask me, they let him go so he wouldn't die on their watch.
The Pete's not just there going, oh yeah, come on, rescue me. Pete's like not eating, you know, he's really in a bad way. And his kidneys were starting to fail. So, yeah. And so Jay manages to get Lupe on tape, goes back to Sinaloa, and there's a really funny little story where the pilot, who's the best pilot of Sinaloa, is this young boy with flip-flops driving the plane, and he's like, no, and Jay's like, oh my God. And then like another thing happens while they're in the air and et cetera, and then Jay goes back to Chapo, and he's like with his best mate, and he's like, here's the recording, listens to the recording, and Chapo's like, oh, Lupe, what have you done, Lupe? But anyway, I still need $10 million. So Jay's like, what the and he's so disappointed because he's proved that it's not, because they pride themselves on never owing, you know, they pride themselves again on this trust and not being
paying the connect
scumbags, basically. And yeah, it's like all about loyalty in a kind of disloyal world, which again, I find really interesting because to me, there was more loyalty than sometimes I see in my own life by people, which again, there's a judgment that it isn't, but actually if we look at, we're so quick to...
There used to be an expectation of honor amongst thieves. That shit's out the window. When you come to a criminal culture that is already to the point of utilizing police as a ringer, game's over, man. Honor and thieves, that shouldn't go in the same sentence anymore.
We're so quick to judge on the other side.
They really broke that loyalty, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, but that was out of their own choice to save themselves. But anyway,
hang on. So, but how did that resolve itself? Because I heard
then
that
he had to go and get $10 million.
So he just had to basically go.
So Jay had
hustle.
to go, and hustle.
Yeah.
So if you recall correctly, in the Surviving El Chapo documentary or in the Surviving El Chapo podcast, they were giving up jewelry, they were giving up money, and they were like, you know what, go on, take them, get us our money. But I think they just didn't want him dying on their hands.
Yeah, and hustle.
Yeah.
And collect. And then they actually laid all their jewelry out and got an appraiser to come and so that they and they sold all their jewelry, including the wedding rings of both the wives, both Pete and Jay.
Yeah.
And to get the money.
Right.
Because of Lupe.
Right.
But Chapo did go and get Lupe.
So you went and killed Lupe.
And then so anyway, Jay goes and gives the money, and then like Chapo's like, okay, release Pete because he's literally about to die.
Yeah.
He was that bad. He got kidney failure, like I said. And then they just let Pete out in the middle of nowhere, and Jay's trying to find him, and he's like, okay, I've got a rough idea, and Pete's like, all over the place. I don't know where I am, I don't know where I am, and like in the middle of nowhere. And it's a really powerful story because I play the whole thing out of Jay trying to find Pete.
Wow.
And Jay's like trying to flash his headlights, and he's like, because they left him with a phone, can you see the headlights? And eventually he manages to find him.
That's crazy.
And Pete,
they had to use that twin telepathy to do that because that's nuts. Just in the dark looking for this little dude that's littler than he was when you last remember him. He's falling apart. The phone ain't got no signal. It's the middle of the night. It's bananas.
And Pete's like, can hardly stand up.
I don't get how these people, I don't get the mindset. It's like, why can't Chapo just arrange a ride for him? You know what I'm saying? Because now and then they kill Lupe, and then Chapo's like, well, hey, I need a guy to distribute for me. Would you like to do it?
And that's what happens.
It's so
in the end,
Mexicans are weird.
But even when, even before they've got Pete, Chapo's like,
he said Mexicans are weird.
Even when, even before they've got Pete, Chapo's like, oh, okay, well, I want you to come and work with me. And Jay's like, with all due respect, sir, that's fine, but I want to get my brother back. And then Chapo does say, my brother got killed.
Right. And he says no amount of money is worth losing your brother.
No amount of money is worth losing your brother.
That's what Chapo
That's to Jay.
Yeah.
Even though Chapo knows that it's not Jay that owes the money.
Yeah.
But, Chapo doesn't care, I suppose, because he wants his $10 million.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean about that's some maniacal shit right there to utilize your own brother. Chapo utilizing the death of his own brother to manipulate Jay to do what he wants him to do. You're using your own pain to manipulate somebody else's pain to get what you want. Maniacal.
So anyway, and then he managed to get Pete, and then Pete, I asked Pete after that, I said, because in my head I'm like, well, wouldn't that change you, right? Maybe that would change what your decisions, maybe. And I said to Pete, after that, did it change you? And, I spoke to his wife, and his wife said that for a long time, for a while, Pete was, locked in a room because he couldn't face the light, and he really
had PTSD,
but also really bad physical health issues. And he was locked up for a long time in horrific torture conditions.
Right.
And Pete said, yeah, it did. And I said, well, did it stop you? And he said, no, it actually, I went in higher and further.
Yeah.
And I said, why? And I thought it was really interesting because he felt that's the only way he could prevent that from happening again.
Is to get richer.
To get more, well, I wouldn't say richer, I'd say more power.
Yeah, but that's all based off money. I would. It costs a lot of money to keep those operations moving. So power.
But because of power, because he saw safety in power.
Yeah.
But yes, you need money for that. But I mean, which because you think, well, they can't just get out anyway. They can't just exit. So it's not as simple as oh, well, you were kidnapped, you're in this really bad state, exit the situation.
Of course.
They're not going to let them exit. But, would they try and lie low? But no, he said they upped the ante.
Right.
Because it made him feel like that's the only way he could protect himself is by having more power.
So now they're
I understand that psychology in a way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What was interesting is you said they actually... Yeah, they got bigger. So now they're in Mexico, and Chapo is their connect. He's their supplier. They were then exporting. These guys are Mexican Americans, but they're on the Mexican side, and they're now smuggling drugs across the border. They're on the supply end.
Yeah, and they've still got their same people in Chicago.
Right, so they've got their...
So that's how, going back to your question, I don't think they would have been able to do that if they were Mexican.
Right.
Because they'd already set up a community.
Yeah.
I don't know, a network in America.
So they've got their buyers in America, but they have the best price. They are the source.
Yeah.
And so now it's did they give you an idea of the kind of money they were making? And what were they moving?
Well, when I asked that, they said that they just didn't even know it was that much.
It was that much.
It was that much that they even lost count of how much money they were working. They were making, sorry.
Was it coke? It went from
cocaine.
Weed to coke, but then it was heroin because they got Chapo on the wire talking about, I want 40 kilos of heroin. Yes.
No, yes, but it was not, they weren't doing heroin until the very, very end, and they didn't want to do it. So it was mainly all cocaine,
Strictly
and it was
cocaine.
only at the very end that
Gotcha.
that kind of came into conversation or into the situation, and they didn't agree with that. And again, I'm just telling you what they said.
So a lot of
it's not for me to.
A lot of people don't want to dabble in heroin.
Yeah,
they look at it as different than coke.
Yes, yeah,
which
and that's what they told
me. Yeah.
So, but they did that because they spent 8 months trying to get that phone call.
Yeah. Right.
So again, it wasn't they spent 8 months in that situation where every day they were like, is somebody going to find out what we're doing?
Okay. So where were they? How long were they working directly with Chapo before they decided to turn?
Not very long.
Talking
a couple of years.
Couple of years.
Yeah,
couple of years.
Again, a couple of years. And this all went down, 2007, 2008. Most of the time, people on the internet got the story mad convoluted or the timeline convoluted, and they put Cato together with Chapo and this and that, and it's just a lot of things that don't go together.
Did they set up shop in Culiacan, or were they somewhere else in Mexico?
All over.
Yeah.
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 I mean, they were in Culiacan, but they were all over. And what they used to do is they'd buy a house, but they wouldn't put their name on it. So they'd buy a house outright, never put their name on it. Yeah. And then when they felt there was some kind of risk or suspicion, they'd move and they'd just leave everything behind.
Just abandon
the house with all their belongings in it, and then move to the next house and the next house. And they just went to loads of different places across Mexico.
Right. Okay.
And never stayed in one place.
Right. It's a stressful life. That is a stressful life.
It's also crazy because I'm like, is there loads of houses I mean, it's been a while now, right? But I'm like, is there loads of houses just left with people's...
Yeah.
Yeah, old girl Ashley that used to secure the stash spots for them. She's living in one of those houses loaded with cash.
belongings in, because that's what they told me. But I mean, I don't know. Is
That's
that
a-
what people do?
That's
you,
a- yeah,
You know,
I
because
used
they
to-
told me that they just bought these houses.
Let's see what Johnny used to do.
No names.
Probably
on
already
them.
furnished on them.
Yeah, already
furnished and all that. Yeah.
And they got somebody to, and they did that in Chicago. You know, in Chicago with the stash houses. Actually, they got one of their connects who used to set up this woman who used to set up the stash houses and make it look like a house with furnishings and set it up like a lovely, rich person's house. And that's where they'd stash their drugs.
Yeah.
And so it's the same concept in a way that they did in Mexico.
Yeah.
And then nobody'd be suspicious. People think stash house is like some dodgy warehouse, right? With a load of drugs in it.
Yeah.
Not some posh, fancy, rich, big
Exactly.
mansion with loads of like pots and pans and nice furniture in it.
Right. Yeah.
Bruh, shut the
Yeah.
fuck
I mean,
up.
that's a real estate move, is buying, like, here in America, somebody gets raided in a big old house, they go to prison, a real estate speculator will pick that up because then the government will just sell it at auction. So yes, in Mexico, that's, there's many of those. So they've made a lot of money by this point. They feel, why do they feel like they couldn't get out? Couldn't you feel like you could go on the run? Like, here's my other thing. You got tens of millions of dollars. Yes, you got
hundreds of millions.
hundreds of millions.
Yeah, it's far more than tens of millions. That would be doing them an injustice.
You're right. Well, I'm just saying, because the money goes so fast. It's like
I'd be in Prague somewhere with my family.
you got to pawn your jewelry. Like, save some money, guys. So they felt like.
But that was because that was in the very beginning. That's
Right.
before they started working with Chapo.
Right.
That was like, that was how they started.
Yeah, and it
to
costs a
work
lot
Chapo.
of money to go on the run too.
Yeah.
So obviously they can't go back to the States. They've got a warrant out.
No, yeah.
You can't stay in Mexico if you want to get out of the game. Or could you? Like,
They said no.
They said they couldn't
Yeah.
have. They couldn't have. They couldn't have gone to, maybe this is an ignorant question. They couldn't have gone to the bosses and be like, I want to get out, but here's somebody else.
They'd have killed them.
Who is this fucking guy, man? Hey, boss, I want to take my Golden Goose services elsewhere, sir. And but I brought a proper replacement for me. He's a hard worker. He's reliable. He's always on time. He'd like to fill out an application and go through your drug screening program.
Right, because they know.
Too much.
They know too much.
Yeah,
right,
and also
right.
they're not going to go, oh, you know what? Why didn't you take why didn't you take a vacation?
Sure.
And
Go on, get a mental health day. You know what I'm saying? Don't worry about it. We'll handle the rest. Fuck it.
chill out a little bit. Like, it's always on.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's the other thing that they explained to me. They had like 50 phones each. They had over 100 phones between them. And then I just thinking a lot about your questions over this our conversation, because it is interesting, like why they were so successful. Again, this is I think another thing is they were always hands on. So they had a phone for each person.
Right.
So that's why they had 50 phones to cover their back. So
Yep.
they never used one phone. So it's one phone call, one person. And they were always really hands on, and that's what Chapo liked about them, because Chapo said, hang on, what?
Right.
And they were like, no, it's always do our own stuff.
Right.
So they were on 24/7.
Right.
But from what they told me, again, I can't say no, they wouldn't have been able to get out, because I'm an expert by proxy. I'm not being in that situation, so I don't know.
When you're distributing to the whole country, you know what I'm saying? When you're distributing to the whole United States of America through the number one guys in the world, there's no mental health days, if you ask me. You know what I'm saying? If there's no let's talk, let me out the game. Especially when you're as good as they are. Like, when you were as good as they were, and you were different, you broke the language barrier, you had the logistical knowledge and all of that. Where were they gonna find that? Let alone Chapo gonna find that. So no, I wouldn't think that you could just call in a pinch hitter.
But from what they were explaining to me, you can't get out of that situation.
Yeah.
Like, they were so high up,
Yeah.
that they were so connected in that situation that it would have been impossible for them to get out. And they did think about, well, could we go to like
South
Spain
America,
or
Spain.
something?
Yeah.
But they felt like they had no option, and that's what they told me.
Gotcha.
And because I did question that. I said, well, could you have tried to escape? Could you have gone on the
Mm-hmm.
run? And but also they were like that. They didn't want that life anymore. They wanted out of the life.
And that's my problem. That's my problem.
What they
is
wanted.
You didn't have 5 problems. She didn't shout out your problems down.
That's my problem.
What they
is
wanted out of the life.
Right, but
what's the problem with that?
But you chose the life. It's.
They didn't choose the life. So you're telling me a 7-year-old chooses the life?
Gotcha, bitch.
Gotcha, bitch.
Oh, look at that face. You chose the life too, though, Johnny. Why you a podcaster right now? You should still be in the life.
They could have taken their
At 7?
time. No, of course not. But when they were in their 20s, I mean, look, they were smart enough to make a choice to go get a job at McDonald's. So by the time they're in their
I've argued this before.
20s and they've got, let's say, I don't know, $10 million.
They had their opportunity to go legit and live a fairly normal life.
Profit that they've made just from
fair
their,
enough.
maybe even more.
Yeah, they could have got out.
They could have just taken the time. They could have chosen. They could have said, "Hey, I'm going to take a plea deal." They'd never been in trouble before. What would they have gotten? Maybe 10 years, 15 years. They could have taken that, stashed their
They still got 10 years, 15 years.
money, and then got out and either quit.
But, you know,
They could have made a choice.
They could have made a choice then, but I suppose like to be the devil's advocate.
That's a
is
problem
like,
I have with cooperating is that you reaped all the benefits from it, but now you said, I'm going to tap out.
Well, I don't think they tapped out and for ease. Trust me.
Right.
Like I've listened to the stories and what they've been through, and ease is definitely not a word I would ever associate for their life or what they go through or what they're even going through. In the slightest.
Right.
And you can't tell me that it's been easy on your life and it was easy to change your life and be where you are now. And because if you do, then I think you're absolutely lying to me.
Well, no, that's a good question, though. May I talk about myself for a second?
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
I was trafficking marijuana, and one of my sources back then was cartel members directly connected to Sinaloa and Culiacan. I was buying in bulk from farmers that looked like Chapo. They were all 5'2", and they wore little trucker hats, and they had really like high voices, and they were just cute. You know what I mean? And they were the cartel.
Cute till you tied to a tree or you getting boiled or something.
But they were the cartel, right? When they operated in America. When I got locked up, they had no idea about these guys, but they caught me with so much money. They were like, oh, clearly this guy is a link in a cartel chain, because they found, like, at the end of the day, like almost over $1 million. My lawyer was like, we can cooperate, but if you do it, I just want you to know it's not going to be one podcast. It's not going to be one sit down with them and then they let you out. You're going to have to do a lot of talking and a lot of walking.
Yeah.
So
it's
I
all
looked
or
at
nothing.
that.
The government said, I spoke to the government and they said it's all or nothing when you cooperate. You either cooperate or you don't.
And we tell you when you're done.
Yeah.
And
what you're going to give and when you're done.
And I heard that and I was like, I'd rather do, give me 5 years.
But you weren't looking at big time, right? You're not looking at life.
That's true.
That's the difference. If you were looking at 70 years, would you have...
And that's what they were threatening them with?
They would have got life. They would have died in prison.
They would have got killed. Is what they would have got. This guy looks like he needs a fix right now.
No. But from their original case from Chicago?
No, because they didn't go to the police then. So
Right. But my question was, okay, this is actually important to know.
I suppose what I'm questioning you is, would you have, so you didn't cooperate, right?
I did not, but because I looked at.
So if they'd have said to you, you're going to face life, you're going to die in prison, or you cooperate and get 10 years, what would you have done?
That's totally different.
No, it's not.
That is very different.
No, it's not. But you're telling me you wouldn't have. So I suppose
I would have thought about
it's
it.
a different, exactly. And I suppose you're saying it's different because that wasn't your situation. Fair enough, right? But I suppose what I find interesting is, like, I don't think for a second, and again, I've never been in a situation, so I'm just playing devil's advocate. And from the information I know and the time I've spent with the Flores family and got to know what it was like for them. And just, I don't think for a second it goes back to what I said, where you tell it people are either in prison who cooperated or wish they cooperated. Everybody cooperates in prison. And I think that's what people don't understand from the outside world. Yeah. It's like, I've seen some of the comments on Surviving El Chapo and it's like, rats. And it's like, well, you're telling me if you're in prison And I know they weren't in prison. I know they volunteered, which we can talk about. And it's a, completely unheard of what they did. But I don't think for a second anybody's going to sit there and serve them and die in prison when they could get out by cooperating. And that's how the prison system works.
That's why.
And I think it is important that you, as somebody that knows that, you educate people in that, because I've spoke to the US government, I've spoke to the Flores family, I've spoke to lots of different sources that I can't name.
Yeah.
And I think it's so fascinating. I'd love to do another thing on cooperation because it's fascinating, but that is how law enforcement works.
Oh yeah.
I think
they set that up originally to take down the mafia. They were like, we're going to give these motherfuckers so much time that it will force people to cooperate.
Yeah, and that's how the prison system, law enforcement, and these cases work.
Right.
So I think it's really important to emphasize that, where it's not like there's
again, all you gotta do is watch First 48. Police usually ain't got nothing without a rat.
one person in the whole prison, that rats, like they're all cooperating, all of them, for different things to get time off their sentence, right?
I would argue that I just would have done it differently if I were them in Mexico. But what I think is important.
But I suppose you weren't in that situation, were you? And neither was I,
sure,
right?
No. Of course, hindsight's 2020, but these guys had time. It's not like they were, got raided and they're in the cuffs and they're under the gun.
Here we go. Another under the gun scenario. He's not taking into account that this wasn't about law enforcement and this wasn't about time. This was about being murked by one of the two cartels for not choosing the right cartel.
I think the question, if we're actually, because we're kind of arguing about like a moral, ethical dilemma here.
I think it's because you're calling me Australian. I'm just going to argue with you. This whole thing.
There it is.
Whatever you say, I'm just going to.
That's the crux of this interview.
Go against you, even if I. Whatever you say, I'm just going to go against you, even if I don't believe
it. We're British, right? You like a spirited debate, right? In it. So when they were operating, they're on the run from a case in the United States the whole time that they're operating as kingpins in Mexico.
Yeah.
But was the U.S. government, the DEA, aware of them? So they weren't aware of them operating?
No, they were aware of them because they were fugitives,
but
right?
were they aware of the scale that they were moving dope when they were in Mexico?
No.
Boom. Okay, so were you telling? So if that's the case,
but that's how they managed to do it.
But I don't think they were facing life then from their case.
Bruh, they weren't facing shit. They're not even talking about time. This ain't even about time at this point. There was a target on their head and they were negotiating for their life at that point.
From their case when they were in their early 20s?
They were. I spoke to the US government. They said if they'd have been arrested at that stage in Mexico, they would have faced life and died in prison.
Before Mexico. I'm talking when they were still in Chicago on the run.
No, they weren't in Chicago on the run. Their feds were after them and they went to Mexico straight away. They weren't in Chicago on the run.
Right. That's what I mean, though. That's what I mean. The case that they were
So you're saying they could have handed themselves in and turned themselves in Chicago.
First time offenders. Yes, they got caught. Yes, I'm sure they had a RICO case for a lot of weight. And if you look at the federal sentencing scales, yes, they can give you, dude, it's insane. For like 10 hits of acid, they could give you up to life. It's crazy. But probably if these are first time offenders that had over 5 kilos, the minimum is 5 years to life. More than likely, they would not have gotten a life sentence if they had pleaded out. They would have said, yes, guilty. They would have got up to 15.
I understand what you're saying.
So
but from their point of view, that wasn't in their heads right then. So yes, they could have made a choice.
So at that point, it wasn't an option. It wasn't a case of emergency break glass. It was no, I'm going to go to Mexico. I'm going to keep hustling. At that time, they weren't even considering getting out the game. It wasn't a thought.
That wasn't in their heads right then. So yes, they could have made a choice at that time to get out of the life, but that wasn't the decision at that time.
No, I get that.
So like they weren't like.
But I'm saying they had a choice.
They didn't consider.
Well,
maybe but they didn't feel like they did.
Right. Because
I think that's the difference. Like I'm not. Again, look, I want to be careful here because I'm not.
You're the journalist.
I'm not. Yeah. I'm not
right.
the Flores team, and you're not the US government or the opposition or criminals that don't agree with rats, right?
Right?
That's not who you are.
But I'm just saying for argument's sake,
Well, I'm not pro, and I'm here as a journalist telling you a story that I've made. So I want to make that clear.
Do you think?
So
Now, do you think they think after all that they've been through, because they were put through hell after they decided to cooperate?
Yeah.
Do you think they would have taken if their charge was 15 or 20 years from the original indictment in America? Do you think they would have rather done that than go through what they had to go through to take to
The part he's not understanding is that at that time there was no get out the game for them. They didn't feel like they had to get out the game. They felt like they could have just gone to Mexico and kept going. Wasn't until their life was 100% in danger that they decided to throw on the federal government parachute.
Do you think they would have rather done that than go through what they had to go through to take to cooperate? Like, do you think the prison that you have to go through to cooperate is worse than the physical prison?
Well, I think, they were in physical prison, as well. So I think just time. from what they
some time they did 14 years, bro. What the fuck is this guy talking about?
He said, yeah, they did do time.
Yeah,
and they didn't get it easy.